I know.
The room as soon as I open it. I want your turn.
Okay, cool.
I wonder if I can borrow that little thank you for weed. Okay, all right. Well, hey, okay. I guess y'all can see I'm busy. But I am back. Hello and welcome to the All About You show with OMG and Friends, where we talk about the things that you think about and some things you don't. I am your host, OMG, along with my co-host,
Daydream.
As always, family, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We ask that you please join in on the conversation, where your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions help drive the conversation. Today, our subtopic is going to be Blacks in History to Blacks in Hip Hop. I kind of want to take a different spin on Black History Month. As you know, February has a duplicitous role. It is for Black History Month, and we couldn't even have this all to ourselves.
Right.
It's also Heart Month. So for the first 2 weeks, we're going to do Black History, and then for the latter 2 weeks of the month, we're going to do something about bless your heart, taking care of your heart. At any rate, okay, here we go. Blacks, back in 1926, Carter G. Woodson began a celebration called Black History Week. Now, clearly, 1 week was not long enough, so they extended it to 28 or 29 days, depending on the leap year in February, which still isn't enough time to recite all the contributions made to this country by African Americans. Now, Black history, however, is not relegated to just benefiting Blacks. Black history affects other minorities as well, because our HBCUs, our historical Black colleges and universities, has afforded other discriminated communities the opportunity for an education and a better quality of life. Black activists and songwriters such as Gil Scott-Heron, Stevie Wonder, Tupac, James Brown, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, Jill Scott, just to name a few, all contributed to the betterment of Black people in this country. And there are so many more that have not yet been acknowledged. They too contribute to our lives and thus help make America great. So as you can see, Black history actually is inextricably tied into the warp and woof of the fabric of America. After all, our slave ancestors built the house located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, known as the White House. Our music, our foods, our style, our cultures, our ebonics, our jargon, our swag, and all of our accomplishments and achievements have benefited the quality of life of every American in this country and abroad. You see, music was a way of life for Black slaves to express their pain and their suffering, but also it was a valuable communications tool. They would sing their escape plans. Aside from athletics, music and entertainment were one of the few ways that Black people could ever really realize the American dream. And for some reason, that still holds pretty much true today. As the Black plight evolved, so did our music. During slavery, we sang gospel and Negro spirituals. During Jim Crow, we sang the blues. During the crack epidemic, we rapped. Later to become known as hip-hop, this is another form of expression for Black people. To some, the lyrics seem degenerate or dysfunctional. Dysfunctional is exactly what you get from a community when the mothers and the fathers are either dead or in prison due to poverty and crime created by institutional racism. Let's talk about Black history to Black hip-hop. I don't think anybody really deals with the musical side of slavery.
Right.
I don't know what made me go there. I don't know. But a lot of times you think about, the traditional, the Martin Luther King, the Rosa Parks.
Well, music is food for the soul.
Music is
It's
a major part, and nobody's really talked about it.
Right.
So I figured we kind
I
of go
thought,
there.
well, yeah, they do, because remember now, with the current administration we have now our textbooks read about how happy the workers were on those plantations, and they sang. That's why they sang, is they were just so happy and grateful.
Well, for us, music, well, I guess for a lot of people, but definitely us, with any sort of African American background, you're born with a beat. Latino as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have that drum, and we can all just go into a Kunta Kinte dance.
Right?
We all have it, But music plays a lot. I think it's a way of emancipating slaves almost, because it allowed them the opportunity to, to engage and get off their main thought pattern, which was being enslaved and working hard in the sun. So singing kind of allowed them to forget that, praise God, motivate each other.
It was also as a way to remember.
Absolutely. It served
way to
a
remember.
lot of purposes. That's my point.
As a way to remember, history and tell stories, since, you're not allowed to read, write, or, to even be a human.
Right,
okay,
because you were subhuman.
Yeah, so you had to sing your history and sing to remember. You know, that's how you were taught, and that's how you learned.
And there was,
But also, you know, it was used as a way for plans, escape plans.
That's why I said they used to sing their escape.
Right, and you know, of course, because it was in a different language, that made it easier. But you know, slave owners started picking up on words here and there, and so, or you know, you'd have those slaves who turned moles and would snitch and say, "Hey, this is
there's always some in your camp." I mean,
hey, there's always that one in the group or two, you know, that they have a price.
There's a Judas.
Absolutely, they have a price, and you know, for Latinos, it's the same thing. I know growing up, one of my great grandfathers, you know, I've talked about him before. My palan, he would sing to us stories about the revolution. And you know, that's how we learned history and you know, about our family and things. So he would sing to us, and it was great because, you know, we
remembered it.
Yeah, it'd be like, hey, you know, Palan's getting ready to sing. He has something to say. And so we'd gather around and be quiet and listen.
See, I think the young people miss all of what, like they would verbally have to tell a story because, as you said, they couldn't read or write. So family history was passed down verbally.
Absolutely.
You know, and through song and through poetry. So it was an escape for them. So I just don't think we focus enough on what music not only does for them but for us as well.
Right.
You know, and
even now, you know, music hasn't changed. Like I said, it's food for the soul. You know, there's just some days, you know, or some moments out of nowhere, a certain song will hit. And you didn't realize you needed that song. You're like, that's what I needed right there. Either to you know, get you in the mood or to express exactly how you felt, you know, at that moment. Or, you know, you could be having a great, wonderful day, and then that certain little song hits, and it gets you right in the feels, and you're like, man, I didn't realize I needed that release.
That. Sometimes you just need to hear that word. You know,
absolutely.
And then they said during Jim Crow, you know, we ended up singing the blues, which I can see that as well, you know. And then I'm sure shortly after there, you had soul music and you had jazz, and jazz is a lot smoother, has a different flow than what I guess they had back during civil rights, because music was very big during civil rights. You know, it was more gospel, Mahalia Jackson, and
but the music, the genres,
still music. The genres is what
was popular very much went with the feel of the times.
Yeah, are we back there again?
Very much so.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You know, now we have mumble rap. And so it's just nonsense going on, which, hey, look what's going on around the world right now. Look at the state of our nation. It's nonsense.
Absolutely.
So it perfectly matches up for me.
But I'm just curious, you know, we had artists and activists, like I said, like James Brown, Nina Simone, and some of the others that were very strong in their opinions doing social injustice and stuff like that. I don't think we have that anymore. I don't know where it comes. I remember Jill Scott Heron having songs, you know, that dealt with the time, the social issues that we were dealing with, as did Marvin Gaye, because his song, What's Going On, still is a hell of a good song at 60 years later.
Absolutely.
You know, so here we are 59 years
later. It very
later
much holds true.
That's right, 59 years later from Black History being actually enacted in 1976 as a month, but in 1926 as just a week holiday. So I just think that we just need to remember what music activates in us and what it does for us to stay motivated.
Right.
And I think on that tip,
well, yes, we do have to go to break. Thank you to everyone who's tuning in, and we will read your comments when we come back.
Okay.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, where conversations lead to real change.
Oh yes, when we come back, I'm gonna do a live read for Sammy Raceburn.
Have some lights good.
Okay, so you know what I know. Okay, so
you want to keep it over here?
So Silky, we're gonna do a few more minutes.
Do you want to keep it over here or move it over there?
Black
Oh,
And then we're not missing any of the other stuff, so we can go there.
Right.
It's just a Can you have a picture of the old people being clean? I guess is that for the next segment, right? Because we're talking about the old school clothes too.
Yeah, it's coming up.
You know, sometimes it doesn't come together until
We're here.
yeah, and when I'm here, because it's kind of like, you know, because I couldn't fine tune it. Then all of a sudden, in the middle of my sleep, and I just thought, oh, I need some history back in your thoughts. I was like, Music. We'll go for music. You know.
So I think you don't listen to Kendrick Lamar, Joey Badass, or Childish Gambino.
Huh?
Well, you know, Kendrick Lamar is not too bad. Kendrick Lamar is not bad. Childish Gambino, you know that
It makes him so.
it makes sense, you know, and they're talking about real issues.
So is he? So okay, let's.
You
talk
know,
about
this
him
is
when we
this
come
is
back. I
America.
know
Yeah,
about
his
him.
song "This Is America."
Do you have a
Joey
song?
Badass has a whole, I think his album was America with
Can-
3K.
can you
something.
play
You
something
gonna be
today?
Angel Ramirez or
Yeah, Angel's my my good buddy.
Well,
So.
from Childish Gambino.
Hi, Angel. I'm gonna give you a shout out
Oh,
when you come back.
he made a Marvin Gaye type song.
Yeah,
Okay,
Danny
let's-
Glover's song.
No, not it.
Oh, really?
Glover.
He's the same dude. Childish, he has two personas for this. But he made a what's going on type
See,
song.
I don't know all the younger artists, and that's why I went back to what I know: Nina Simone and James Brown and everybody.
Well, that's the
Have
history.
you-
Well, I can't,
Yeah.
Jill
I
Scott.
I'm
I
talking
can't
about
play
your
it
daughter.
because of Facebook.
Oh,
Your daughter, you'll know.
I wouldn't be
sure.
back after you. That'd be on.
But Jeremy, I can't play it because of Facebook.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Please.
That is
Okay, we're gonna
Oh,
listen to
here,
this.
I am
Are you ready?
silhouette.
Do the live. I gotta come back to the Sam Houston Race Park. Live racing is back at Sam Houston Race Park in 2019. Our 25th anniversary thoroughbred meet continues with 50 cent beer this Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. Saturday is our first annual Chihuahua races. Post time for racing is 7 p.m. Get a luxury suite for 10 people starting at just $2.99. Have dinner at our Winter Circle restaurant for just $30 per person, which includes admission, buffet, tax, and gratuity. It's the best deal in town. Live racing is back and better than ever at Sam Houston Race Park. For more info, call 281-807-8700 or go to shrp.com.
Say a Chihuahua racing.
Chihuahua racing
That
is
should be so
It
cute.
is. It's so much fun to see them out
It'd be
there.
slow for me because little teeny little legs.
I know
They
it
have
is.
ostrich races and all this other stuff. Okay, guys, welcome back.
I'm
You're
sorry.
listening to the All About You show with OMG and Friends, and we've gotten one of our other hosts to come in from traffic. And
Silky smooth.
okay, so as we were talking earlier, guys, we're still talking about blacks in history and blacks in hip hop. We're kind of taking a different route in Black history, not so much talking about the activists themselves as much as the music and how that probably during the time helped activate, get people motivated to stay strong, stay in the struggle, even when things weren't happening. When during the civil rights movement, people were being hosed down and dogs chased and all of that. So music was always an outlet for us. You had something you wanted to say?
Yes, thank you everyone who's been tuning in and listening. We appreciate it. Please give us a call at the studio, 713-789-0096. Give us your opinion or, of course, comment on the live Facebook feed. Angel Ramirez, he says today he's a teacher, an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
So today I taught my students about Harriet Tubman and introduced the lesson by playing Wade in the Water. It gave me and them chills and brought tears to my eyes.
Absolutely.
Oh, my
That's the
God, I know,
gospel.
that's
Absolutely.
Oh, I can feel that.
We all, like I said, they had Mahalia Jackson. They did a lot of songs by Mahalia Jackson, and especially when you're talking about, some of the older gospel songs. So I can imagine Wade in the Water. I mean, if I hear that or Old Danny Boy, that still gets me. You know how old that song
Yeah,
is?
there's quite a few
That was
songs
still
that
a slave song. Right,
Yeah.
and
Walk with me, Lord. That was
Yeah.
that one. I can.
I mean,
it's like I can't get through
They
the song.
needed motivation as we need now. So I don't know. That's my question. Where is our motivation coming from now by way of music?
The interesting piece that you brought about the music of how they sang the instructions or
Escape plan.
the escape plans, the escape routes. In the master's program and studying technical communication, you gave me an idea how I may incorporate that into my thesis as a form of the communication in
to
the
give
early
credit for that.
days.
You guys heard
Yes.
this, right?
Yes.
I need to be
Yeah. Oh, I
acknowledged
would
for this.
definitely
This is
quote OMG on this one.
there's
and talk about that as the early forms of because I'm learning about intercultural communications.
Right.
So here's the culture, there's the communication, and how although they didn't have an education, so they couldn't enunciate and they didn't know the words, it didn't matter, they sang them so that but they understood each other and they did communicate. So I'm
I
interested
want
in that as
to
a
throw a
part.
little something in that they didn't have formal
formal education.
There's a huge difference between being educated and having a formal education. Just because you have a formal education does not mean that you're educated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of
Because I
people with
believe
formal
people back
education are the
then
most
Are the
ignorant.
dumbest ones.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
said that, and something like that. I may have to quote you on that when it's time to write
No
my
problem.
thesis. And also, but
Okay.
I would love to be able to discuss that
Yeah,
as
okay.
a
Because I just
form
thought
of
music would be something.
intercultural communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You know, so what else was I going to tell you? I lost my thought. Again, this is what happens when you get engaged in conversation. You come back and it's like,
Right,
what was I
right.
doing? Anyway, there are other forms of music, but my question becomes now, what happened? Why is it that we don't have that same Marvin Gaye, that Tupac, that, you know, get up, keep your head up, Earth, Wind, and Fire, reach for the star, you know, reach for the sky, all of these songs that kept us motivated even through hard times. It's like those
Isley
songs are
Brothers.
gone, you know, but
Oh.
now hip hop it's a totally different
And it didn't start out
conversation.
that way. It did. Hip hop virtually annihilated the gang violence in New York. They no longer fought. They danced and they rapped against each other.
Right.
So it
Yeah,
didn't
dance
start
crews.
But
out.
see, they created
Yeah, you didn't start out that
once
way.
the record companies bought into the privatized prisons, you know, and that's another thing, you know, that probably precipitated, you know, the
Right.
where, you know, we'll get into other ones. We're going to my other topic, you know, I better say
Yeah.
that.
There's the music now. There are a few artists that are
Oh, yeah,
out
you
there.
you guys did mention.
There are a few mainstream artists that are out there that are still that still have a message and a purpose.
And I heard you all talk about Gambino. What is
Childish
it?
Gambino,
Childish
absolutely. He really took off with, you know, This Is America, the video, because it showed police brutality. It showed the racial profiling. I mean, and it was pretty explicit, and it was the truth. It was
You know, they
completely the
can't
truth
handle the
about
truth.
it.
You know
Absolutely
that.
not.
You know
Absolutely not. You know, so there are still a few artists out there. It's just they're not getting as much
They're not getting the play, probably.
They're not
because-
getting as much marketing, and of course, you know,
When it's
in-
positive, it's
well, one of our engineers over here is looking at me all crazy. What I mean by much play is you're not finding the paparazzi and everybody as much into, you know, Childish Gambino, yeah, and the message as opposed to, you know, Tekashi 6ix9ine.
See, I don't know any of these guys.
With his
I know
nonsense
Gambino,
that's
all
going
I
on.
know.
I mean, think about how that blew up. BuzzFeed is going on, a TMZ, everything. But, you know, unless it's something negative, those artists who are trying to bring light to all the issues that are going on in society today, they really don't want
And
anything
when
to do with. They don't mention them unless
When
it's something
has that
negative.
not been the case?
Absolutely.
Even with
Because
Nina
even
Simone,
Spike
when
Lee,
James
remember?
Brown, when all these people
Yeah,
right.
had a voice, you know, they started kind of backing them out because they didn't want to hear it. The whole idea is to dumb you down, and you can't be.
and not
you can't
definitely
live
not
right.
motivate
You definitely can't
Right.
listen
Say
to
it loud
something
and black
motivate-
and
Right,
brown. What?
exactly. You can't
You
do
what?
James Brown or Payback or.
The
Right.
big
You know,
payback. Yeah.
we'll talk about that later because we got
Right.
400 years coming up, guys. 400 years of slavery is supposed to be August 20th, 2019.
Wow.
From August 2016-19 when they actually sold the first slave.
Oh, when they
That's your
first.
400
Well,
that's
record
your
of-
400 a record of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on. But music, so I'm glad to hear there are some younger, I don't know who they are, like I said, I have heard Gambino, but you know, I'm glad that at least somebody hears some of it. But it's just the fact that they're being drowned out by all the
By the negativity.
by the
by that,
negativity.
By the clowns that
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
So,
have now.
Well, guys, again, hip hop, we're going to go into our main topic, basically, which talks about effeminizing our men. And hip hop, while some of the words, as I said earlier, can be degenerative as well as dysfunctional, a lot of this has come about and been precipitated by a lot of these people that have gone to prison. You know, their parents are dead or the kids are just bad and they end up going to prison. And so all these things help change the black man when he comes back and try to fit back into
Yeah,
society.
he's like a new creature,
Yeah,
but
but you know,
not in a.
yeah, we just don't need our men effeminized. That's what I'm not happy with. You know, I think that it's.
Especially now, men are few and far between.
I know
so
the few you have, they're
the
feminine.
few, well, they're not even so much just feminine. It's just not even so much in their dress, in their appearance. It's even in their
Mannerisms.
no in their values and or their what's the word I'm looking for in their ethics. And men are supposed to provide.
Let me tell you what I
You
had
know,
here
they're
for-
supposed to be the strength.
What I had.
And
You're right.
now it's
The
been
leader.
dependent upon women, and she's gonna take care of me, and I'm a pimp. I'm
And they're
this,
not
that's that.
ashamed. I think that's
No
what is the
shame.
moral.
That's
the
what
moral
kills me.
is
It's like
shame.
you're
No
bragging
shame.
about this.
They are.
Like that's no kind of man to me. That is not.
This particular.
All right,
That's
I'm
a
getting ready to
little
go home
boy.
because she got paid.
And
I'm
that's
about to get
where the
paid.
term, absolutely. The term, F boy comes from. That's exactly what those are.
Right.
If you're dependent
I
upon
know
a
a guy
woman
like that.
to take care of you and this and that, I just gonna sit back
I
and
knew
I
a
ain't
guy
got
like that.
Come
He
on.
said, "I don't have to work. I got a wife," and I just looked
Well,
at
a
him
lot
like,
of them feel that way because a lot of women are, taking advantage and buying men. And so when you start to buy them, then they go to the highest bidder pretty much.
Oh yeah, real quick.
But again, like Daydream said, the moral issue. Why doesn't he say, "No, I'm not for. I'm the provider. You don't buy me."
Because they're
I'm
not
not for
providing.
sale.
They're not providing.
Because they haven't been taught that.
I had
We don't have that. We're the men of color. Where are the majority or a high rate of our men of color going to prisons? They're
That's what I
not
just
around.
said.
They're
No,
not allowed to.
no.
They're not raising their kids anymore. And then those who are out, they weren't taught to raise your family. This, that is
Right.
depend upon a woman.
Right. Oh, she'll do it.
Yeah, and because we have to, as females, as mothers, you're not gonna just, as real mothers, you're not gonna just allow your child to just, you're gonna do everything possible, because a woman will tell you in a heartbeat. And my mother will tell you in a heartbeat. If I had to sell myself in order to make sure that y'all had what y'all needed, I would
You're
do
gonna
it.
get. Hey,
You wouldn't question
you
it.
talk to
You're
a
right, and my
mother
mother
when
would've
it comes
done
to the
the same
children,
But you
absolutely.
do it for the best for your child, because
Yeah.
you're at the point where you have nothing else. You don't know what else to do, but you're gonna do everything possible to keep that from happening.
Absolutely.
And we don't have that anymore.
What I had here, I had asked the question, what happened? There was a time when a black man was the epitome of strength, power, agility, stamina, and athleticism. During the civil rights movement, our men were well dressed and projected the image of masculinity. And somewhere along the line, things have kind of changed. They dressed for success as to how they wanted to be treated and to be viewed in the black community in general and by America as a whole. Our presence mattered and was taken very seriously. And if you look at blacks in history, they strive to, better the race for people of color through education, work advancement, and researching and reaching one and teaching one. I don't see us
Reaching
doing
and
that.
teaching.
You
Yeah,
know,
and really, that's all of our responsibility.
absolutely it is.
To do that, and I take it seriously. I mean, I'm a graduate tutor at the University of Houston downtown, and I teach writing. I teach it to adults and I teach it to kids, and I take it very seriously.
And I'm a teacher by profession. I think all
Yeah.
of us on a regular basis, whether we've actually been accredited for teaching, we're still teachers.
But
Absolutely.
we should pride
Especially here on
ourselves
the
in being
show.
that
Right.
way. Everyone, all of us, whether we are certified teachers or
Just
teach-
teachers in life, a life
right,
coach. All
right,
of us
that-
have earned the right
right,
at
we're
this point to be a
supposed
life
to
coach.
consider. Right, we're supposed to be teachers.
Well, see, I think we've lost all the anonymity and
And then
the-
teaching is not put on the level that it should be.
Well,
if
it
you were
never has
training
been.
and
You
shaping
can't
a
make any
mind,
money.
and
You
I'm
can't make
teaching
any
you
money
writing
teaching.
skills,
Well,
that ought to be
yeah, it should be a top priority.
but it
it's
should be
not.
honored.
We've had.
But the thing
Those-
is, even if it's not
days-
highly paid, it's not even honored.
No,
There's no respect.
I
for
wouldn't be with
teachers
where
at
I
all.
am without my teachers.
most of us wouldn't. That's why.
How
you-
could we be?
You find some athletes and people who have done very well academically, they will always think their parent, God first, their parents,
Parents,
and then there's
and
always a
That
teacher,
one.
that one teacher that has impacted you some kind of way.
Some
We all
kind of
have
way.
that,
Yeah,
and for you all, and for the world to minimize that,
right. How dare you?
But parents nowadays have created that.
they have.
Because it's all about, now they look at teachers as just babysitters. I don't have time for that. Isn't that your job? You deal with it.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Ooh,
some
ooh.
things.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've been told that. When I was in my previous profession, I was told that. It's like, well, isn't that your job? You need to fix this. And
No, you
man,
need to start this at home.
you had 13, 14, 15 years of creating this monster. I've been in y'all's life for 2 months, 3 months, maybe 6 months, a year. That's not going to fix what you created.
Well, they don't want to admit or own up to what it is that they have in fact created, you know. But I'm just curious, guys, with what's happening with the men being effeminized. Not so much, I mean, I think it's precipitated a lot through prison because a lot of the black men go to prison. And I don't think a lot of the young kids really know where the saggy, baggy pants off the
What
butt.
it really means.
Where it
where it
originally came
originated. And
Yeah.
you know, and as a matter of fact, it's kind of scary because I remember when I was in my teens, I was just getting ready to go off to college. I was 17. I remember back then, boys were wearing baggy pants and they wore silk underwears and silk socks at that time.
Oh.
You know, and then to now see it come back full circle. But I don't know, and at that time, 17, I knew nothing about guys going to jail. That wasn't part of my
Right.
situation. But I remember
Yeah,
they used to wear the silk-
saggy
silk-
pants
Mhm.
and exposed underwear let them know that you were open for business.
That's
You were
exactly
open
what
for
that meant.
everything, anything.
Yeah, and so now these young boys wear them down and don't have any
Right.
clue as to what signal they're sending while they're out there.
Right. And you know, and off air, we were talking, and you know, it was brought up about how, you know, initially the no belts and the baggy pants, the oversized clothes, that goes back to slavery.
It does.
You know, so that's what we were talking about off air.
Right.
For those who were able to tune
hear
in
that, yeah.
during that time. But now we're reverting back, and you know,
History
and then
repeats itself.
yeah, because if you go to back in the day, you know, it's the clothes were fitted, they were
the men
tailored,
look-
the
I
men
think
were
we have a
sharp,
picture
they
of
were
these- oh, she's
debonair,
got
you
the
know,
guys
absolutely.
hanging off.
Oh,
Now, who
no.
wants to
Yeah.
wear that? Who
That-
does that? What does that do?
And they've gotten lower
Nothing.
over time because at
I've
first it was
never
just the
seen-
top
right,
part.
now you
Then
see
they
their
slid, now
entire-
the whole
Ugh.
butt
Guys,
is
look at
out.
the screen that we've got. That's just
Yeah,
to show you
it wasn't
where
that low at
music
first.
has
Or
led
they
us
have to hold them as they're walking along. And I said,
And
you
then
know,
if
if
you're
there's an
dumb enough to
emergency,
commit
you
a
have to
crime,
run.
and can't
Right.
run. You're stupid.
Right,
Yeah.
now we've reverted back
Yeah.
to slavery times. Here we are, it's still the saggy, you can't get away, you can't.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Right.
Willie Lynch pretty much, you know, and as much as people say that was a myth, I don't know that I believe that. It's too accurate. But at any rate, he said that he would have everybody, have the black slaves to where they would be like this for 400 years. And so, as I said, guys, that's a whole nother conversation, but we'll just touch on that lightly. But, you know, what's happening? You know, I read somewhere the other day where a woman was pleading to other women saying, please don't go to Atlanta. You know, because apparently you have a lot of effeminate men there, wearing heels and wearing lipsticks and
And some people encourage it and then act like you're supposed to accept it and be excited about it.
I don't feel like that's limited to just a certain area. I mean, yeah, you're gonna always
Well,
have
you know,
those
Atlanta is
certain
like the hub,
neighborhoods.
yeah, right now for men on down low. You know,
Yeah.
men that men that have breakfast with their wives and have brunch with their lovers.
Right.
Who is
Okay?
of the
Who's
same
a man?
gender.
Who's a man?
Who's a man.
Right. You know, so there's a lot going on out there. A lot of interaction and a lot of intercourse and a lot of illness because a lot of STDs are going around.
Absolutely.
Isn't
Absolutely.
this where what's name's thing happened? What's his name? R. Kelly? Wasn't all this in Atlanta in that area?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, he's out of Chicago.
Okay. Well, either way, so it's not limited to any geographical location.
Right, no,
it's
absolutely
everywhere.
not.
But I just thought about Atlanta because I just read that article where the lady said she was pleading, women, please don't try to find a man in Atlanta.
I've heard people say, well, maybe I'll meet somebody. I'm like, why? And then the few straight men that are there, and this is from people that I know that live there, the straight women are fighting over them or they're willing to share them because there's so few.
Mm-hmm.
So no, if you're a straight woman and you're looking for a
Well, you know-
straight man who's really straight for real, then no, Atlanta probably.
I don't even know
the
what's
last
for real.
place you
for
wanna
real.
It's probably the last place that you
That's what
want
she was
to
saying. You
go.
know, you just don't know what's for real. But also part of the emasculation of the African American man today includes, you know, homosexuality, largely because our sons have no fathers. And as I mentioned earlier, some of these men in these homes have also molested a lot of these children. So
And get them confused.
so the effeminization happens to a lot of people at a very early age.
Well,
for
speaking
the
of
guys,
that,
you know.
speaking of that, Donnie McClurkin, the gospel recording artist
Mm-hmm.
who is also a pastor of a church, he comes to our church to preach, I guess almost every year or so. And this was a few years ago, he came to our church and he gave his testimony. and he did speak to that. He said he was raped, molested
This is what I'm
repeatedly,
saying.
repeatedly when he was like 7 or 8 by an uncle, somebody in the household, and how it just totally just got him confused. And he talked about being delivered from homosexuality and how God had to deal with them and how all the things that he had gone through because of that situation. But he gave a powerful testimony. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in that whole church. We were just like, oh my God. But when he said repeatedly by his uncle just had a lover, and it was his nephew, and didn't even care what he was doing to this young man. But he knew
Young man, a child.
right?
Seven,
This
he's a
child, and he was saying how
Some adults had to know. I can't believe people
I
don't know.
said
I
that.
find that very hard to believe.
and he had a hard time he didn't want to tell his
And
mother
those,
because she
and
didn't
those
believe-
those
yeah.
people who know what's going on are just as bad, if not worse,
Well, they're enabling.
than
Than the person who's actually
predator.
committing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, but you know, and back in slavery, guys, they had something. It was called buck breaking, and buck breaking is basically the process of emasculating. And what the slave owners would do is get the strongest, most powerful, most athletic, cut, buff Mandingo, and use him as an example, and
Now
make him dress in women's clothing to embarrass him in front of the town, or the township of slaves, or just within that little communal.
he was made an
type
example of.
He was made an example of. So, you know, I'm just amazed that now, you know, it also says here that by forcing him to wear women's clothing or beating and raping him in front of his children, so as to lead others to lose respect for him. It also served as a warning to other strong males that if you do not follow the master's orders, this is going to happen to you. I mean, they've done everything they can do to us, but you know, I don't know why we are repeating this.
Right? Isn't that also a term for training when you're horse training?
Buck
right,
breaking.
that's what I was
Well,
saying.
see, you have to understand, Willie Lynch was a horse farm guy in Jamaica.
Right, and that's what I was
So
going
that's
to get at.
what-
Is just keep
yeah.
in mind it's
And they
property
claim
of your
this-
animals.
Right, that's
Right.
exactly right. And so, obviously, he's done a hell of a mind job. But I'm curious, who pushes for something like this? Who would be the one to benefit most from emasculating and effeminizing black men? Who would benefit most from that?
The ones who are doing it, the ones who feel who feel threatened, they feel
That's
weak.
it. The one who feels threatened.
Just like now with bullies. Why do people? Those who are bullies, why? Because you're afraid. Because you're
coward.
weak.
You're a
You're
coward.
trying. You pick out the weakest link so you can feel better about yourself. So
That's
you
right.
can feel like you're better and stronger. And the reality is, if you look back to see what's going on, who's bullying them at home? Who's abusing them?
It's
or
coming up.
what
It's
else
just
is
being-
what's going on?
Mhm, absolutely right. You know, but again, we have all these different. You know, I'm going to read something to you real quick. Tyler Perry, Wesley Snipes, Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, Charles Barkley, Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Dennis Rodman, Terry Crews, Chris Tucker, Arsenio Hall, Kevin Hart, LeBron James, Keenan Thompson, Ving Rhames, and it's got about 30 other names.
Mhm.
All have played females. And if you recall, Dave Chappelle was one that they approached a couple of years back with some big thing with Netflix and $60 million contract, but you got to wear a dress. And he was like, no, I'm not doing that. You know, and so I think he kind of went to Africa or something for a minute and, you know, just trying to get himself back together. But
He left.
yeah, he did. They were adamant. And then his
Is that what that's why
that's
he
what that
didn't
whole
do
thing
it?
was. Well, because he felt like, why do you all want to have all black men in a damn dress? Okay,
Yeah.
so he said, I'm not doing it, and so
Dave Chappelle's an educated man.
absolutely,
So he knew
is.
exactly what they were trying to do.
Absolutely, he knew. And Martin knew, just like when you had him running down the street saying they're trying to kill me, he's crazy, and all this other stuff. And I remember Kevin Hart said that he would never wear a dress. You know, but most of our black actors, if you think of them, they have had a
Yeah,
dress on.
Wesley
some kind
Snipes,
of
and
way. So it's buck breaking yet again.
Yeah, and I actually love the movie. It's Tu Wong Fu, but there's Wesley
I
Snipes, you got
remember
Patrick
that.
Swayze,
And
and
the
John
Hispanic guy.
Leguizamo. John
Right.
Leguizamo, absolutely. I love the movie. It was great.
I did too.
You know, I crack up. I have it on VHS. You know, but yeah, absolutely. Because after that, then Wesley Snipes started doing all the Blade Runner and those type of movies, masculine action, this type. Yeah.
He wanted to make sure, and then he didn't get typecast in that type of role.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
you know.
But you were already the
You're
dancing
already-
monkey.
So what?
Think about it.
How does it? I don't know what that is exactly. What's that?
The pet monkey. Oh, dance for me. This and this.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That's what they were all played as. You still
That's true.
you
You're
still
a
played the
monkey.
role.
Yeah, they still kind of go with that.
Mhm.
How has effeminizing men of color affected the Latino community? Is it any different than what we
The
talk
Latino
about here?
community is very, very machismo. Catholic. It's a sin. It's horrible. You don't do that. It's not a man. You don't cry. You don't. And that's those old school type of harsh mentalities are still very
there. Yeah.
prevalent. But there's more and more Latinos that are more open and being more accepting. And, to take it back to the music, the reggaeton and dembow, that type of genre actually has quite a few artists that are breaking out and becoming a lot more popular mainstream, but then you also have those, who are in Latin trap, Bad Bunny, who he's got the colored hair, he's got the colored nails, he's, different clothes that if it were someone who identified as homosexual, you'd get all kinds of criticism and how dare you, and you'd be, shamed. Right, but because he dresses that way, but his music lyrics say something else, and he always feels like he has to make a explicit point about how he's very much a man and straight. And so it's okay for him to dress like that. So there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot.
Yeah, you would have to go through all that.
You remember Flip Wilson? You guys
Geraldine was his
That's the
feminine
first one I
alter
remember.
ego.
That was his alter ego, that feminine. And then from there, it's kind of like it just kind of escalated. And they
Do you
had a few
remember the
white guys
Beverly
play it.
Hillbillies? Jethro had the
That's
feminine. Jethreen.
Right,
Jethreen
right.
was his.
I was just going to say,
feminine
I was just going to say, what's his
counterpart.
name? Robin Williams.
Wasn't
who
that
played
the
Lizard.
cousin?
Yeah.
Jeffrey was a cousin?
Jethro.
Or
But it
something.
was him?
Jeffrey was a girl, so
Yeah, but
When he went
that's
into
what the
female
character
drag.
was.
Okay.
Right, it was the cousin.
And
Right.
so I can think of, like I said, Robin Williams playing Mrs. Who was it?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Miss Doubtfire. And who played? Was it?
We had
Who played
Dustin
Tootsie?
Hoffman.
Did he? Was that
Dustin
Dustin Hoffman?
Hoffman.
Was Tootsie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the ones that I really remember. White playing.
No.
I'm
Jim
not saying there's not
Carrey
more.
played Venus de Milo. No, never mind. No, that
I
was
have no
not
idea.
really When he was on Saturday Night Live, he had a feminine.
Well, look at Martin with Shanae.
Also in
And he
Living
also
Color.
plays his mother. He plays his mother that doesn't like,
Right,
Gina.
doesn't like Gina,
He's
yeah.
Shanae. Yeah, he's got several. He's
You
got a
remember in
few.
Living Color, the Wayans brothers, the one that had the
Absolutely.
all of that, all the girls.
Yes.
Yeah, that
They're
one,
awesome. I
and,
still love watching
I
those
do
clips.
too.
Like,
I
that's
do too. I look
hilarious.
at that there.
Well, which is the one that played? I can't remember. Oh God, I can't think of her right now.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the aging process. It doesn't all come to you. We have too many of these devices in front of us.
Absolutely.
Because you know what?
Keep
Now,
track.
I told y'all before, I like my paper. And
Yes, I saw you came back to it today.
I love my paper.
Last
I'm a
week
teacher.
you
But
I'm
the
a
color that
teacher.
played
I like my
Ugly Girl,
paper.
I think that was Jamie Foxx that played
Jamie
Ugly
Foxx.
Girl.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
Oh, he was in
Wanda.
Wanda.
But he
Yes.
wasn't. But the thing that was funny about like Wanda, Ugly Girl, is that he didn't
Don't
go
mess
all
with
out to
Wanda.
look like a woman. He was just
Being funny.
just being funny. And see, that's funny when they just slap on a wig and they still got a beard, their legs are all open,
Still don't
and
know
they
how to
still
be a
don't know
woman.
how to
Right.
be a woman. That's funny. But when their lashes and they're completely made up in foundation, and now they become ambiguous and you can't really tell,
That's
that's not funny to
androgyny.
me anymore.
I know.
That's not
I
funny.
think on that tip we've got to go to break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Bridge of Light Radio Network, where
I was standing in
conversations
one
lead
position. I'm like,
to
oh, I should have done it.
I have my author's edit today. Did you
No, so perfect.
I'm about to pull it up because it's on here.
He's whistling a song.
I wanted to
Childish
put it
Gambino.
up in the background.
What?
He
Can you
told
play
me
it?
I couldn't do it.
Can you play it? What?
I didn't play it, but I wanted to put the video up in the background.
Oh.
The edited version, maybe?
I know.
Maybe the edited version? Is there an edited version?
No.
It's
This is
Okay,
great. I'm
then
just messing
I
with
But you can
you.
do it now because I took it down with the background.
I'm just messing with you.
That's just on our
He told me
flyer,
no.
right?
Yes, it's on our flyer.
I don't think Sam Jackson's ever
So
played.
I'm gonna play the song at the end
Samuel
anyway.
Jackson?
Oh yeah.
I don't
Ever
know.
had a feminine character.
Yes, I'm about to have a whole
I don't think
fun
they-
I
time.
don't
know.
ask that question. Let's come back and ask someone. Maybe somebody.
Nah, he's never played
I
a
don't-
female.
no.
Well, not that I've seen.
Samuel
Yeah.
Jackson, that was
Nah.
outrageous.
But right, see, when there's just hard,
He's just the crazy motherfucker.
he's the hard cussing.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine him like.
Right, so in
He's
his case, it would
gone,
be
ain't
funny
got
because
nothing
there's nothing
on
funny.
TV.
So he would be funny.
He would be
But like I
funny.
said, when they go, when
All
they
right,
see
you ready to
the
come back?
Okay. Do you have to read anything? Do you have anything?
I'm gonna. pull it
Denzel's
up
never
on
done a
here.
female role.
Yeah, Denzel ain't, but Denzel.
Denzel hasn't done it.
But
Yeah.
still,
Yeah,
still, though, you know
let
what
me
I'm
see
saying?
the remote. Make sure.
Put on the down.
If y'all were still
She got
listening,
dignity.
are we back on yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put it on here.
What are you doing? Your thing? Your thing?
Which
Yeah,
one?
this
Y'all
is
doing
an,
commercial?
She's doing her second one.
author, yeah, that I wanted to write African American author.
Look at you. So
Yeah.
just going.
Ready?
Okay, so pick them up.
Oh! Greetings from the author's attic. I want to share with you a little bit about a good read that I am enjoying very much. The author is the Reverend Dr. Noel Hutchinson. He is the former pastor of First Baptist Lauderdale Church in Memphis, Tennessee, and he's also written a couple books. This one is entitled From the Shepherd's Staff Remix. This is the second version. The first version is From the Shepherd's Staff, and he talks about current events. And one of the things he says in his book for believers, and even it's for anyone, even whether they are a Christian believer or they have some other faith or even no faith, he encourages people when you're looking at current events, which is one of the things that we do on this show. He says, when shaping an understanding of the world, one should have a newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other. And then he says, as I talk to many people, either through my TV show, because it's a TV show, or in general, as a pastor, I see the need for many to discern some credible, thought out ways to view current events and society through the lens of the Bible instead of the other way around. So it's kind of what we do on this show. We always have a spiritual
Usually,
moment, a spiritual
absolutely. You have
perspective.
to.
We still
That's
go
the
back to our
basis.
creative, to our creator, and we still even question sometimes, how, God's in control, but sometimes we even struggle with some of the things that happen, just like this feminizing men, and the Bible even talks about these sort of things.
It does.
And you discussed it even last week, but in his book, he covers those kinds of things, which is amazing. It's a good read. It's easy to read. I encourage you guys to purchase this book. You can get the Kindle version. Again, it's called From the Shepherd's Staff Remix, and it is written by the Reverend Dr. Noel G.L. Hutchinson
Put that on our Facebook page.
Jr. Yes, I will put that on our Facebook for a book to be inspired by, and also to focus on as ways to live your life as a believer. And it was just, also just one more quote from him I'd like to share. Since the gospel is concerned, he says, not only with individuals, but with individuals in their social relationships, it must be relevant to the way people order their social relationships in politics and government. So he gets down and dirty with society, social issues, the government.
Same thing we're doing. That's
The same thing
we
the
do.
same thing we're doing, a government, and again with the Bible in one hand, and he's dissecting all these things that bring us concern. And it's an
It sounds like a
excellent
good
book.
Yeah, put
Yeah,
it on our
absolutely.
website.
Yeah, and he just talks about how people appreciate in integrating theology with current events.
Okay.
So I encourage
Well,
you all
thank
to
you
go
for
out
the
and get that one.
recommendation, guys. We're going to have it on our
Absolutely.
Facebook page. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Deuteronomy. Is it Deuteronomy 22, verse 5? Since we were talking about effeminizing men of color, I think the Bible clearly speaks that a man should not dress in women's clothing,
And
and a woman should not
yes.
dress in man's clothing. So
In
all
other
of this
words,
is an
this is
abomination.
confusion.
And all this is confusion, and that's the world we're living in right now.
Absolutely. And,
Right.
and it's being encouraged.
It's being
It's being
encouraged. I was just
encouraged.
going to say the TV shows, everything that we
Celebrities.
look at, celebrities are pushing.
You know,
it.
And we follow them.
Right, Will Smith's son, you
Dick
know,
Jaden.
yes, and you know it goes on that it's fashionable, it's this, it's that, you know.
And that was Louis Vuitton that he did a photo shoot for in skirt.
It's still a dude in a skirt.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Call it
at a
whatever
high
you
Remember
want.
line.
the cover boy, cover girl
Yeah.
makeup and the cover boy
Right.
that was on
And even now, especially, you know, Snapchat and Instagram and YouTube, you know, Insta-fame people, you have children, 7-year-old, an 11-year-old boy doing makeup tutorials. And I have to, I'll say,
he's pretty good.
pretty good. He's like
that's
professional
he's
level,
probably
like
damn
better
good.
than,
But see, that's
But
not
it's
anything
more
to be
like damn
proud
good.
of. That's
And-
nothing to be proud of.
No.
you know, and I have so many mixed things about that
Where are
because
his parents?
if that's who you are, by all means, be who you are. You know,
A lot of
but
his
at this,
parents
but
are
at,
encouraging and pushing that for
Well, I'm gonna-
monetary gain.
well, for monetary gain, that's the issue that I have with that.
Right.
But my niece. I'm going to encourage her to be whoever she is and support her in all of that. You know, and you know, what if my niece is gay? You know, I'm not going to sit there and
Judge her. You can't
judge
judge
her.
her,
You know,
right.
I'm going to be there to support her, but I also have a moral dilemma because you know I feel it's wrong. You know, for me, I know it's wrong, but at the same time, you're in that fine line of judging.
Yeah, well, sometimes
You know,
as
so
an
I
adult,
can't-
you have to
I
be
can't
that
do that.
person to at least sit down and help them work through whatever it is, because a lot of times they're not going to discuss it with you unless you pull it out on them.
Mhm.
You know, the
And
insecurities that
sometimes
they
they are on
have
the
and
fence
what
and
they see
struggling.
at school, because at school there's a whole nother world happening at school.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so if we don't train our kids at home, it's not going to be much for us to deal with later on. But you know, emasculating the men, where does that leave us as far as procreation? You know, because you know, there's a book that I read years ago, and David, I'm sure you heard me say this before. There's a book. I forgot who it was by, but basically it was like men becoming extinct,
Mhm.
and women will just be with each other
Right.
because you
And
know.
humanity will stop.
And
will
right,
cease.
that's basically it. And it's really weird, but you know, everything seems to be leading. All these things we talk about, from movies to books and all, some kind of way it appears to be unfolding.
Right. Well, now you have those
to
stories.
destroy humanity.
Yeah, you know, you have those stories and those, you know, news stories that pop up every now and then, and people try to play it off as just, you know, tabloid made up nonsense. But you know, men having babies, men getting pregnant, them, you know, I truly believe that's a real thing that's going on
Are you
behind
serious?
our eyes, you know, in the dark. As a way for experimentation. I mean, come on, just like with the body, the human cloning and all of that stuff that.
Did you ever? I read something yesterday, guys, that said
And men
I
are
didn't get a chance to
volunteering
follow it, but it was basically that AI robot had killed
29
what
scientists,
was
29
that?
people in Japan.
Didn't we tell people about AI?
Yeah, and they
Didn't we
said,
talk
you know,
about
we
hey,
it
did
you're not-
say,
before?
but we talked about them, and then I said, well, what happens if it kills you? Then what?
Then
Well,
you're dead.
and if the part of the clip stated on there how one of those robots was trying to find a way to make themselves stronger to continue destroying.
That's iRobot, but that's another show. We
Absolutely.
can't talk about it. I just kind of
Absolutely.
saw that in passing, but I wanted to tell you something also, guys. There is a fashion designer by the name of Tom Brown, THOM, and he does a lot of the. He has basically said, you know, don't be surprised when you have these boardroom meetings and the men are coming in with dresses and bags and heels and lipstick and all this.
I'd be real surprised if I see that.
His spring line for 2018, you'd have to look at it. I wish Joy could pull that up. But anyway, it's all these men in dresses. You know, we've seen P. Diddy in dresses. We've seen Kanye in skirts. We've seen, you know, some of the other younger rappers wearing skirts and stuff. And so, you know, they're feeding us all of this. And, you know, again, we don't have much recourse against celebrity status because these kids are all enthralled
And-
with this stuff.
Right, and you even have artists like Pink who are raising their children to be androgynous.
Yeah.
You know, gender neutral, and
And
who
who-
else? One of Brad Pitt's kids.
Oh, yeah, that's Shiloh, whatever that
Yeah.
is. But this guy here, Tom
They're
Brown-
raising her to be androgynous.
Gender
they're
neutral.
letting her go to do what she wants to do, which is be a boy.
Mhm.
And so also this particular guy, Tom Brown, has started, he has a clothing line. If you go check the spring line of 2018, and his philosophy is that, well, you start one way as a baby. Why shouldn't you be able to choose your own path as opposed to culturally people telling you which way to go? It's about being open-minded to experience life the way you want to see it. So he is pushing the agenda for, and I looked at some of the pictures yesterday. They were carrying, these men had on 3, 4, 5-inch heels.
Like Magic
Look
Johnson's
at it,
son.
put it up, yes,
Yeah.
put it up. I mean, it's unbelievable. Big Louis Vuitton bags or big Birkin bags.
A merce.
And
Man purse.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
dresses.
merce,
I mean,
man
dresses
purse.
and not just pants. They said that women wear pantsuits. Why can't men wear skirts and dresses?
You know, there was
Why
an
do they
episode
wanna do that? I mean,
on
why-
Friends
Just
why is
saying.
that-
where they made fun of Joey because his character, they made fun of Joey, Matt LeBlanc. He went to I forget who it was, Ralph Lauren's store with Rachel, and he was trying to find something, and she sold him on a man purse. It's the latest thing, this and that, and he got so much flack for that. In the show, and they were like, "That's a purse. It's this, it's that," and he kept his sandwich.
Even on Hangover. Remember the guy? The guy. That
Yes.
He kept saying it's not a purse, it's a satchel.
It's a satchel.
It's the same thing. you know?
Right. Same purpose. It's
Same
to
purpose,
carry
to
your
carry
stuff.
your
What do
stuff.
women? We carry purses, not just because it looks cute with our outfit. That's why I carry one. Because the majority of the time I have just my phone and my keys.
It's just
So-
like a fashion statement sometimes.
But guys,
Well, that's how
look
it is.
at this clothing line. Again, hip hop has brought in.
Let a
A
guy
whole nother
show up to
fashion
take me out on
statement.
a date wearing a dress.
Mm-mm.
I would say.
I mean, what can you? It's coming. I mean, it's being pushed and forced on us.
No, thank
But there's nothing we
you.
can do about that. People, you have to raise your children at home to prevent the world from training them
Oh my god.
Absolutely.
and raising them. And these
And
celebrities.
the world wants to do
And
it.
celebrities get paid to push this stuff on your children. You
Yeah.
know.
And they're happy to accept
And
the
they're
money.
happy to
They will
accept-
sell their soul
Right.
for
And they don't
the
believe in
money
it.
and sal-
No, they don't.
They don't believe
They
in it.
get
They're just
paid.
like, oh, that's business. That's money. Over here, I don't allow my children to listen to this. They don't watch this. They don't do that. They're raising them a completely different way than how
what
you're
they're
allowing them to raise your child.
yours. Well, guys, I bought some black cake since it's Black History Month.
Yummy,
Now,
yummy.
I am the godmother to a young woman from Barbados. And so for the last 30 years, I think Sherry has to be about 32, something like that. For the last 30 some years, I get this cake that her mom makes. And most people from the Caribbean, Jamaica, all
From
the
the islands.
islands, St. Lucia and Africa, they all know about the black cake. So I've heard that on one side that it is a fruit cake, and which it is, but they use it for other purposes like weddings and baby showers and
They
stuff
do.
like that. So
Yes.
if y'all want to taste
It
it,
is
it's very
very
rich.
rich.
It's you
Very.
need only a small piece, but I thought it would be the perfect ending to a Black History broadcast.
Very
Nice
So
nice.
stuff.
can you give us our gratitude?
Oh, yes, of course. I'm thinking about the
Okay,
black
we gotta
cake.
wrap it up.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone who's been tuning in. Check us out on our website, www.allaboutyouShow.info. That's all about you, the letter U. At Twitter, at All About You Show, and also on our Facebook page. Those who've been tuning in, OMG and Friends.
Yes. Spiritual growth results from absorbing and digesting truth and putting it into practice in daily life. The truth, not lies. The man in a dress is a lie.
Absolutely it is.
But the truth.
So guys, again, we appreciate you listening. Please tell your friends. We are in fact trying to grow the station because all of what we're bringing to you is the same information, that's being repeated now, regurgitated that we told you a year ago.
Or more than
2
that.
years
We're,
ago?
we're 4 years young now.
Okay, so
right.
we've been saying this for a while, so
Exactly.
get with the program. Anyway, we love the family, and I guess we will hopefully see you next week here on the radio.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Have a good week.
Expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the Bridge of Light Radio and its staff.
Poncho disappeared.
I love this cake.
Isn't it good? You have to taste it. I got a new one. They just gave it to me last Thursday.
When I-
And some